Welcome to Lizzie's Workshop and this episode of Mixed Media Monday. Today I am starting off with a stencil off page. So it is basically where I kind of threw the stencils once they were covered in ink and I didn't want to waste the ink. So I stenciled off on this page. Now what is under there is mostly dilution sprays and stuff, and they will move if I get them wet. So I'm trying to just put the matte medium on the bottom side of this wrapping paper so that it doesn't smear all of the ink around. So this wrapping paper you've probably seen a few times. It is something that is from, I think it's from Chapters, from their Christmas stock. And the imagery on this wrapping paper is just a whole bunch of pieces of birch bark. And so I ripped it all up. I'm adding it to this page, adding a little bit of texture in there. And then I'll come back in with some more sprays and some more colors that will blend the current background in with the new background that I'm creating for this calendar image that I'm putting on here. So for this page, I went back to my calendar that I've been slowly taking apart. And that one is called The Present Moment, Embracing the Fullness of Life. And it's from Sounds True, Many Voices, One Journey. And this is a calendar from 2015. I've already used it. I'm already done with it. But the imagery in this calendar, I'm absolutely in love with it. And I've been finding that the calendars I've been choosing over the last couple of years are calendars that I can later on use in my mixed media art. So there you go. I choose art based on what I want to preserve in my art journal. So this piece is going to have a bird with a bright orange breast on it, and I needed to somehow incorporate the naturalness of these browns in there, and that's part of the bird as well, with the bright orange. So I'm going to have to add some colors that will help blend in the bright orange, or at least make the foreground cohesive with the background. So I'm going to spray some dilution sprays over top of this and just kind of add to the busyness of the background. So I'm using this piece of plastic as a smoother, or like you could use a piece of card, or you could use a spatula or something like that. This piece of plastic is kind of like a plastic bubble remover for putting the safety screen onto your cell phone. I save everything. So I'm just using matte medium. I'm going over and gluing everything down, and I'm covering up the big chunks of blue, or wherever there's a mess, or that kind of thing. I'm trying to make it look a little bit like a wooded space. And then, I needed a little bit more texture in there that met with the colors that were already present, and so I grabbed this dictionary page and I'm adding in some text for the background. And then it doesn't really matter what the words are on this page, because all they are is visual texture. So it doesn't really matter all that much where I put them or how I place them. They are just the visual texture adding to the background, and they do blend in really nicely with all the busyness that's going on with the birch bark. So I'm using an old brush there. I've been using these brushes that have the acrylic handle on them, and I'm really liking them because I have a tendency of putting my brushes in the water and forgetting about them. And I'm noticing that if I have a wooden shaft on my brush, then I end up destroying the brushes. But I'm finding that if I have these acrylic shafts on my brush, then I don't have to throw them out as quickly. They don't have the moisture absorbed, they don't follow up the brush. And some of these ones are quite cheap. They're from the Artist Loft, which is the Michaels brand, and some of them are quite expensive. And they are the Princeton Art and Brush Company. And my favorite ones are the Princeton Art and Brush Company, and so when I have company I kind of hide those. Oh, sorry. Now you know. Now the company that comes over to play with me will know. So now I've taken this stencil, which was one of the ones that was in the background, and I'm pulling the green that was in the background originally back up to the foreground because I just love it. And that is a Dylusion spray called Dirty Martini. And the yellow that I added in there, that was a Lindy Stamp Gang, the California Poppy Gold that I put in there. And this orange that I'm adding in is called Squeezed Orange. And that's a Dylusion spray. I guess I must have lost the video content for the yellow, but so now I want to create a word block for this page, and so I grabbed a piece of that wrapping paper, and I've grabbed my StazOn, and I found a quote. I'm not sure where I found this quote. It might have been a Pinterest thing, it might have been a Facebook thing, I'm not quite certain. The person who it is from is her name is Stephanie Bennett Henry. So these stamps are recollection stamps. I got them for Christmas. People who are not arts and crafters, you really need to tell them exactly where to go shopping for you if you want specific things. Or else the craft store that they know is Michael's, which is absolutely fine. I did get a lot of stuff from Michael's this year, and I don't really shop anymore at Michael's because I found cheaper places in my local area. But I really like to support the little craft stores, the little scrapbooking stores, and I really like to support the drafting stores and the artist stores. And I found one of the artist stores locally that gives amazing deals. Most of the things I find in there are half price by comparison to Michael's. So I have passed on those names of those stores, but people seem to just, oh well, one-stop shop will go to Michael's. Which, that is what it is. So I'm using 3 different stamp sets here. The top one is a Recollections. The smallest font there, which I'm using now, that is a W+9, which I ordered online through the Craft Shack. And the other one that says I used for the word tough, that is also, I think, Recollections and also from Michael's. So I am piecing together these things, and I thought, you know what, this is boring. We'll just skip to the end. And the quote ends up saying, "Life is tough, my darling, but so are you." And my word "you" went a little bit wonky, and I fiddled with it a little bit, but I just said, you know what, it doesn't matter. It's on a tree. Nothing's perfect when you carve it into a tree. Come on. So I just let it slip, and then added in the punctuation mark, the exclamation mark, and off we went. We were done with the words. In order to add a little bit more visual texture to this, all I did was rip down the page to expose the white core. And I did that on 3 sides. And then I'm going to glue it to the page. So all I'm doing, once again, because I have all the dilution sprays on there and I don't want them to smear everywhere, I'm just spreading the matte medium on the back here, and then I'm going to lay it down and smooth it all out because I don't want to smudge my beautiful dilutions background that I've created. So I'm using my brayer on this one, and then I lift up the edges a little bit and add some more wherever it's needed. Here is the bird, and he's sitting on a branch. That's what that long part is. And that bird is from the calendar. I fussy cut it out. He seemed to be meeting exactly what I wanted this page to be. And then I just smooth it all out. I'm going to have to go over it a little bit more. Magazines, they tend to ripple, and they tend to not, like magazine type of pages where they're glossy and kind of flimsy, they tend to not be as cooperative as you'd like them to be. And in this instance, I'm having to pull up and put the matte medium on the outside and then go slowly around and gently around the edge because I don't want to smear all of my beautiful dilutions mess. And the reason I'm concerned about that is because I have all these nice, clean, crisp, stenciled pops of color on there. And if I go around the bird and I just smooth it out and smear it, then I've got this like smeary thing that doesn't fit in with the background anymore. And then I have to smear the whole thing to create this consistent look. And I really didn't want to do that. So I am being a little bit finicky. I am being a little bit ridiculous because it is an art journal, but I feel like it paid off and came out the way I wanted it to. So being a little bit finicky can sometimes get you the goals and results that you're looking for. Now, I always cut off when I use my heat gun. And in this one, I used my heat gun on the edge of that tree, the right-hand side of that tree going up that has the words on it. I used it a little bit too much on there, and I kind of burnt the white edge along that side. And I had to check the other side of the page to make sure that I hadn't damaged the picture on the back, the image on the back. And everything seemed to be okay. So now I'm just going to add some doodles, and I've been drawn to doodles lately, and I'm going to blame Tamara Laporte because I've been taking Lifebook, and there's got to be doodles on everything to add your own. It's kind of adding your own symbolism, adding your own love and your own charms and your own juju to the page, kind of thing. She doesn't use the word juju, I did. But so that's what I did. I made it so that it looks like there are strings wrapping around this tree branch and dangling down. One of them holds a heart and another one holds just some beads on the end of the string. I'm not sure where I was going when I was doodling these. I think that I just wanted some extra texture, and I wanted some something for the top layer. I didn't want to add white in there. I did want to add black, and then, as I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the bird going, you know what? Life is tough, my darling, but so are you. So I am making this little bird the king of birds, or the queen of birds, and it also made me think of Tam Laporte as well, because she likes to add, let's say, antlers to humans and things like that. Like a little bit of whimsy. So I added a little bit of whimsy to my bird. And I've been a little bit emotional lately. And so this bird, I'm going to end up adding some more doodles to this bird. And the doodle that I end up adding is that I find most interesting is because I wasn't really thinking a whole lot about this when I was doing the page. It didn't come until I was editing it that I realized what I was, the symbolism in things. And the bird's going to end up holding a string in its mouth, and one side of the string is going to be holding a heart, and the other side of the string is going to be holding a tear. So I found that quite interesting for symbolism. So what I filled the crown with there was something called flitter glue, and it's an indigo blue product. And what you do is you add the glue in and you let it dry until it's clear, and then you can add any kinds of foiling to your page. And so I added my flitter glue, and because I added such a thick layer, I kept checking on it and checking on it and checking on it, and it took me about 24 hours for that glue to dry. And it was quite frustrating to have to wait so long, but I had other projects to work on as well, so I wasn't really all that concerned. So the bird edge, when I cut it out, I had trouble figuring out what the clear definition of the edge of the bird was, because a bird is covered in feathers, and so it doesn't give you a nice, clean, crisp line to cut on. So in order to emphasize that, I didn't want a solid line. So I kind of gave a wobbly border, and I thought, you know what, we're going to give a second wobbly border. And then we're going to take this little bird, and we're going to say, life was tough, but so are you, by giving it a couple stitches. Maybe this bird lost some of its stuffing. Maybe this bird had a broken wing. Maybe it's been battered and torn, and it's just kind of going to make it through no matter what. And so I added some stitching around the edge of the bird, and I added the double line that was kind of loopy. In order to bring things a little bit more cohesive, I went across the top and the left-hand side of that tree shape with just a running stitch. And now I'm adding the little danglies to the bird's mouth, and that's going to be holding on to the heart and the tear. And I love birds, pictures of images of birds where I can add something to their beak. It's not always that you're able to add imagery to make it look like the bird's holding on to something, but this time it did. And then I went through and added a little bit of more definition to the branch, and then I add, once again, a rough edge around where the orange is, because there's not a defined edge really, but there is, and so I'm bringing that focal point back. And there we go. I'm basically done. I just need to finish off my flitter glue. So now that the flitter glue is clear, I can take some of my Mega Flake, and that is also from Indigo Blue. And this one is called Gin and Tonic, and I just love the colors that are in Gin and Tonic. There's these coppery ones, and there's kind of a greeny yellow, and like an olive color, and like a bronze color, and it kind of gives this mottled texturing kind of mix in there. And you just kind of keep adding the flakes until all the sticky spots are gone. So once all my sticky spots are gone, I am still pulling off little bits and pieces of extra stuff and adding it to where it's sticky, and then I take this little makeup eyebrow brush thingy and I rub away the excess, go around the edge, make sure nothing's sticky, and I continue on with my project. And there is the beautiful crown. Here is where I've put all the words, and I'm trying to show you the depth of color in there, the different layers, the sparkle, the shine, just from, you know, using a mop-up page and then adding stuff on top of it. There's the dangling from the branch, and here is the nice whole bird right sitting there. And that is the final project. Thank you for watching Lizzie's Workshop. Don't forget to subscribe and like and come back again.